Justin Schwing. I'm the Human Performance Advisor at 58 Sal with Air Force. And today I got Kent Morgan, the head strength and conditioning coach at the University of West Florida. He's kind of the gym in the Emerald Coast. I'll let him rap about him in about 2.5 minutes. Kent, you're up.
All right. I sure appreciate the opportunity to be here and to speak. And again, like you said, my name is Kent Morgan. I'm the Director of Strength and Conditioning at the University of West Florida. It's a Division II school in Pensacola, Florida. Started out my career as went to small high school in Cameron, Texas, and one of the top 10 most winning football programs in the state of Texas. So had a great opportunity to be raised around some great athletics. Had the opportunity to be a collegiate athlete and finish up my career at Sam Houston State University, where I worked with Benny Wiley, who's currently the strength coach at Oklahoma, and then Ben Pollard was my mentor, one of my best friends. And then from there, Coach Pollard hired me at TCU when I graduated from Sam Houston, and I was fortunate to get a great job out of college. I GA'd for one semester underneath Rusty Witt at Sam Houston, and then had a great experience at TCU, worked with some great athletes there and great coaches and just great culture. And also got an opportunity to work underneath Donnie Summer, who's still the head strength coach there, great strength coach as well. And from there went on to work at Texas A&M. Was with the football program there, as long as also worked with women's golf. And so there got to work with Coach Pollard again, and then another one of my mentors, Rod Cole, one of the legends in the field as well for over a year. So was around some really great strength coaches at a young age, and was at A&M till 2004, and then from there, or 2008, I'm sorry, and then from there got this opportunity at UWF, and was the first strength and conditioning coach we've ever had. So had an opportunity to kind of build this program, and been here ever since. So it's a great place.
I think thanks for being here today, Coach. Really, the beauty of having you on today, and you really don't realize it, but you're a program starter. Like, you created something from nothing. And if you look at the facilities you have at West Florida now, a lot of people could say it can rival any Division I university. And saying that and understanding that, you literally were a part-time guy. You came from Texas A&M. I know that you started you off as a part-time guy, and you kind of worked your way up and establishing the culture with the athletes and the buy-in and with the coaches and facilities. And so that, in saying that, like, for any coach to really experience that, it's hard as hell, because I've done it. But it's very rewarding and fruitful at the end. I guess first question I want to ask you is if you can kind of go into detail on your culture from day one at West Florida to present day. What's changed? What have you had to do? What are the trials and tribulations you've had to face? What have you made mistakes in? What have you learned? What would you not do again? What would you do again? I think this is important for any coach, from high school all the way up to the professional level, who knows they have a heavy cultural shift they have to go into. So I really want to hear you and kind of dive into your brain today as you kind of speak.
Yeah, it's definitely starting the program at UWF, like you said, I was hired on as OPS, which is not quite full-time, work full-time, but no benefits. And so I was fortunate that, and really we arrived at UWF because my wife got an opportunity to work in the student counseling center. And so she had a full-time job. And at the time, the University of West Florida was thinking about trying to bring in or create a strength and conditioning position. So kind of, it was great timing on my part. Our women's golf coach at A&M needed a golf coach here, and let her know that we were moving to town. And so they reached out to me, and first day we moved here, I interviewed for a position, and they brought me on board. Before I was there, they were just doing the contracts. Each sport team would bring in somebody they wanted to work with the teams and pay them out of their own budget. So the culture that I got into, I had an opportunity to kind of create what I felt was right based off the core values that we had developed throughout my career. So, at that point in time, whenever somebody like me comes in, just getting to understand that that I'm there to help them, and I'm there to serve them, and that that I can take the strength and conditioning aspect of their job off their hands, so they can spend more time recruiting and spend more time working with their athletes. So that was a pretty easy sell. Those coaches were saying, hey, "Here you go, you can have my team." So started out with 4 or 5 teams, and I think it was a big change in terms of just mentality, because I would see athletes wearing other university shirts, and so just getting them to understand the beginning culture of, hey, we don't wear any other shirts besides UWF shirts here, and no Florida State, no Miami, whatever it is. So that was establishing that and getting them to understand that hey, this is a big part of their sport program, is how to develop physically. So, and to get them to understand that I'm actually an extension of the sport coaches staff. So, baseball, for example, I mean, they gave me total control of the baseball program in terms of strength and conditioning, and they looked at me as part of their staff. And so that helped me to have credibility within the weight room and buy-in as well. So, and that just went across the board, different sports. And so, eventually went from having 4 or 5 teams to working with almost every sport, and then getting the GA position. Nick Presley was my first intern I had, and Ryan Davis, who is now head strength coach at University of Maryland football, and had 2 great people with me, and that helped me to move the program along. So, and I also had great support from administration. I mean, you can't do any of that stuff that we've done without support from administration and coaches. So, yeah, I think that we showed value, and that they saw success, and we do a lot of winning at UWF. And so, the winning continued on as our program began, and so there's more and more buy-in as we went along, and great people around me, having great coaches on my staff, and again, support from the administration, because you can't do that stuff. You can't. I mean, anytime I need anything at all, I knew what big things I needed to get. Might be a set of dumbbells, might be 2 more racks, but each year I'd ask for something, and our AD would be, because of the positivity that was coming from our program, he would allow me to get those things and make our program better. So it just grew and grew, and then I had 2 GA spots, and then it was 2015 or 2014 that we announced we're going to add football program. So, which was great. It was awesome. It was going to bring a lot to university. And so we were fired up about that. And then our AD at that point in time gave me 2 more GA spots. And so I had a lot of help, a lot of support from administration to do what we did. So without that, it would have been more difficult. And I had an opportunity, like you said, to when we added the football program, I had an opportunity to update the weight room that we had at the time, and which is still in use. So we had that around for the first year and a half, 2 years of football, maybe longer, 3 years, and it worked great. And then we built a new facility. We built a new turf field. At the end of the field, we built a new facility that included a new weight room. We had an opportunity to design that, and really fortunate here to have what we have. And when adding that weight room was a lot of fun and a lot of work, and we just want to make sure that that our athletes had every opportunity to be successful. So some of the things that we added in there were great. But so now we have 2 weight rooms. I have 4 GAs. I have a full-time assistant. But yeah, I mean, none of that would have been possible without our support from administration and from coaches, and creating value in our program. I think, that's the most important thing, is that we create a great culture of winning. But more importantly than that, it's just we want to build champions and want to make sure that our athletes are being held accountable, doing what they're supposed to do, but having fun and getting after it, and create an environment, again, that's conducive to them getting better. So us as coaches improve as well. So but that's kind of how it got going, and that's what some of the core values that we built it upon. And again, it's just like a perfect storm of a lot of great people coming together at the same time to build something awesome, and a winning culture here, because that's, UWF, like I said, we do a lot of win. We win a lot of championships, and that's the expectation of winning. But on top of that is to build great people. So, and that's truly what it's built upon.
So one key element you said in the cultural piece is taking ownership and being at UWF, being an Argonaut. Like you own that. If you own that, you have the capability of buying into the program. Are there any other specifics you saw that you really were able to establish, or key essentials within a culture or within your culture that you did characteristically that were successful, and there's others don't try that were unsuccessful? Because I mean, every year you look at your program as a coach, from a year and say, all right, what can we do maybe to change it a little bit or here or there. You're never going to say I do the A to B every year, because if you do, kids change. Like the athletes change every year. So if you try to do the same thing, regardless if that's what you do historically, there has to be small manips here and there for that progression or that incline up. So what other things do you say in this whole process, what you talked about, do you think were essential in establishing that culture and building that culture at DWI?
I think one important thing is our perception of what we do. I think that, with this, for example, coaches staff that I worked with, I got here, had never been around collegiate strength and conditioning coaches. Just the perception of that we're going to squat and bench and clean and things like that. Well, I think for us and for me as a coach, I've always been one who has searched for better ways of doing things. I've built a core philosophy being around the mentors that I had, and that doesn't necessarily change, but the methodology is how we do things. And so I think getting them to see that we're very good at what we do. We're very passionate about what we do as coaches. That we spend all day trying to get better and trying to find ways to make our athletes better. So we're passionate about what we do, and so I think they see that, and so that translates into how we train in the weight room, how we train on the field, and how we educate our athletes. And so I think that the buy-in, the culture of that, when they come in the weight room, they know that they're not going to be doing the same workout that the football is doing, or volleyball is going to be training specifically for them, not doing what softball is doing. And so a lot of differences there in how they train, a lot of similarities as well. But I think when athletes see that, they really feel like they can buy into it because we're more or less speaking the language of their sport and be able to train them accordingly. So that creates a lot of buy-in and makes it an environment in the weight room where athletes look forward to coming into, because they know they're going to be training the correct way and for the most part, and without much resilience, because we try to create an atmosphere that's fun and so the athletes can come in and ready to go. So that's a big part of it, I think, is just, staying innovative, staying fresh, keeping things fresh, but, not venturing too far away from your core values and your philosophy. Obviously, you want to stick with that, but also knowing that, hey, there's going to be better methods of doing things, because as long as a coach, you continue to try to get better and find better ways of doing things, and you recruit people around you who are smarter than you, and you work together, then that just fuels the fire of a great environment when you're around great people. So I think that's a big part of it.
So in that understanding, what I've always seen struggle over the years, for me as a coach, even in the tactical setting, with our soldiers, they're PCSing in and coming out. Currently work with students, so they're only with me for a certain period of time, but they bring in a culture of what they've known before, and it might mesh or it might not mesh with what your belief system is. And you being at the D2 level, which is a great example, you guys get a lot of transfers. Not a lot, but you do get transfers. And so you're going to have people that come from program A, B, or C. And it might be philosophically completely different. It might be right or wrong, just different. So in that understanding, how do you go about creating that buy-in for them and instilling that buy-in with the UWF philosophy?
Well, I think, for me, I wouldn't want to change too much of what they've done in the past. Now, obviously, I think situations differently. We got different situations I think we're talking about here. But I think if we're talking about an athlete coming into our program, or one of our programs, I think we have a strong enough culture here, how we've done things and how we do things, that, if they create a lot of resistance to how we do it, then they're not going to last real long, typically. But as a coach, we got to find a ways to reach that athlete and reach them and help them to understand the whys of what we're doing. So, as a coach, I think one of the most important things that we can do as a strength conditioning staff and coach is to make sure that we understand why we're doing things. And so everything that's on a program needs to have a reason and how it's going to make that athlete better, physically or mentally. So I would, for us, it's a matter of educating the athlete. And then, I think when they come into our program and they see the buy-in that's already there, then that helps. And then for us to individually reach out to that athlete and tell them, hey, this is why we're doing this, and this is the importance of it. It's not necessarily just the exercises, but the culture. I think that's create a little more buy-in. But for me, I don't want to change too much at one time. If it was an individual person, I always say that for athletes, they didn't come here to become a lifter or a runner. I mean, they came here to become better at their sport. So what we do with our athletes as a staff has to make them better at what they do and be related to how they perform on the field or on the court or on track. So I think that's important that we understand the whys and also meet them kind of in the middle somewhere and help them understand, hey, this is how we do it. It's why we do it. But you're gonna, again, you're not gonna last real long typically if they don't create that same type of passion. So that's that. And I think from individuals, if it was an individual standpoint, in your situation, I would think for me, I would approach it as not trying to change too much up at one time. So you walk in and they come in and they're doing their own program, and you're like, wow, there's some things that they could really do to help improve that or make it more efficient. I would start out with one thing at a time. I would try to create some type of magical experience with them that, if this just creating a density set where, okay, you're doing a push and a pull and you get more of a metabolic response from that. Well, maybe they've never done that before and they do it and all of a sudden, oh, wow, that's pretty awesome. And so I would start with one thing at a time and then try to create more buy-in and do something that's a lot of bang for your buck and get them to feel, oh, wow, that is great. That is better than I was doing. But I think, not trying to jump in and do too much at one time, but to make a tweak here or there to make that program better for that individual. And then, that will slowly create more buy-in and more trust, what we're going to do with that person. So I would base it off my past experiences and how we, like I said, we train our athletes differently for each sport. And I've had an opportunity to do my career to have chances to be around some real smart people and have opportunities to learn from different people and not just get stuck with one methodology. So I would take from all those experiences and figure out which one's going to be the best to get that athlete or that person to understand why he's doing it or she's doing it. So that answer?
Yeah, of course. So with that being said, and you've kind of expounded upon it, but I want to kind of hit individual experiences, which this has happened to any strength coach that's seasoned in the field. If it's via coach or athlete comes to you and tells you you're wrong and they've won this way because of this, or they've been successful this way because of this, how do you go about mending that relationship or building what you believe is right? I mean, we understand that, what you do is ground-based and it's compound movements and jumping, sprinting are key elements into all of these things. Like, what if someone contradicts that to you in any which way, which is, again, if you're seasoned in this field, it's happened from the high school level all the way. How do you approach it? And do you approach it differently from the coach to the athlete? And what has worked and what hasn't worked for you with that?
Well, I think, definitely have come across that and get frustrated sometimes. But, for me, it's like perspective, staying humble and realizing, hey, there's a lot of ways of doing things. That's one thing I've realized too, is that, I feel like we have a great program here, but you can go across the country and there's a lot of great programs to do things a little differently. So I just think as long as you believe in what you're doing, that's the most important part and understand why you're doing it, like I said. But from getting resistance from an athlete, I think that, for me, it's they've got to again understand the whys of what they're doing. But like I go back to this, for me, it's about perspective. So it may be one or two things in your program they don't like. For me, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm just going to, hey, that coach didn't want to do that. Then we're not going to do it. We'll find a different way of doing it. That's one thing about working with athletes through years and coming across of injuries and different type of situations where you have to modify. Maybe a guy who can't load a barbell on his back. So you got an athlete for 4 years, so you can't ever put a type of load on his or her back. Then you got to find a way to get them stronger and get them better. So, taking something away from your program, there's always going to be something you can put back in. I believe that will cover that, what you're trying to get accomplished for. Let me start over on that. I mean, I think for me, it's about, if you, again, I'm not gonna focus on what we can't do, but I'm gonna focus on what we can do. So if that's one or two exercises we can't do, but I can still do 100 other ones, again, I'm not gonna sweat not doing those things. I mean, there's some coaches who don't want the Olympic lift their teams, and so, and that's fine, because there's a lot of ways to create power or triple extension, and so we'll find a way of doing that. So for me, I'm not gonna sweat it. It's just it's not a big deal, really, because I know I can get things accomplished without you take something away from me. I can still throw something in that coach or athlete's probably going to be able to do and not have a problem with. So,
no, that sounds great. What I've always, at least in this last few years, what I've really recognized is what not to do is don't tell them that they're wrong.
Yeah.
When you try to get the buy-in and they say you're wrong, don't come back and say, no, you're wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important as transition coaches and performance coaches, we always realize, hey, that, I tell my staff this all the time, but we work for those coaches. We're here for service. We got to be humble. We're not the head coach. I'm not the head football coach. And if the head football coach wants me to do something, I'm going to do it. I want to make sure I'm an extension of his staff. I'm going to, whatever his culture is, and I'm going to make sure that we're promoting that in the weight room. So, so I'm not, again, we're here to we work for the coaches. But again, so we just got to stay humble and find, it makes you be creative. You got to find ways to do things differently sometimes. And as a coach, that's awesome, I think, because that's how you get better. So, if you can't Olympic lift, what are you going to do? If you can't use med balls, what are you going to do? If you can't have a barbell, then what are you going to do? So it's all these things that you can work around. So yeah, definitely don't ever say it. Coach is wrong. Again, we're in a situation where we work for the coaches, and so that's important to keep in mind when you come across that situation.
You made a statement in this earlier on that you have to be innovative, that you have to find progressions in what you're doing within the culture, within the strength and conditioning culture. You got to kind of push the envelope sometimes. And I know recently you're probably 2 years old, new weight room? Your new weight room is 2 years old?
Coming up on 2 years, yeah.
So it's a 2 years old new weight room. You did not have all the things that you have now when you opened up that weight room. So when we talk about being innovative, there's new things, there's things that are outside of the comfort zone. But you as a coach, they're going to make them better. How do you go about encouraging innovative ideas for your athletes to try to buy in? If it's VBT stuff, if it's bar variations, if it's some sort of Kaiser component or awesome rotary stuff that you guys got, any of those things, like these are things you've always wanted to do, but you didn't have the capability of doing, but now you can. So you feel like you take the program to another level. How do you create that or encourage an innovative approach to that, one? And then two, how do you push innovation back and then push them to become innovative within their own mini cultures or their own program?
Yeah, good questions. For me, and as a coach, and I think as an athlete, I mean, for us, I think it's important we try to keep things really fresh. Again, I'm a big Disney World fan, and so I kind of look at the perspective of at Disney World, you have the hub, which is the castle area, and then you have the areas that branch off from that. But the hub is what supports everything. So what I see is like my core philosophy, what I've developed through the years, how we do things is that hub. But then all these different new technologies and different ways of doing things to keep things fresh, you have to go out and you have to try different things. And so, never go too far away what you chose to believe. And it's not like you're going far away from it, but it's just you're changing how you do it. So yeah, you're right. I mean, we have things now that I have opportunities to do things I didn't have opportunities to do before. For me, it was a situation where, okay, well, how do I use these things? You got to start getting experience using it and seeing how it does. But I think for me, the innovation comes when you're trying to find a way to get athletes to work harder and to be more successful at what they're doing. So keeping things fresh is important. So we have a real fortunate here to have opportunity to have 16 gym wear units so we can track barbell speed on a lot of different bars at one time. For me, that's a situation where it's probably one of the biggest things that one of the biggest improvements that I've found through my career. There's been a lot of things that come out, stability balls, kettlebells, they're all great things, but this technology allows our athletes to, I just see the fire behind them when they're training because they feel like that we're cutting edge, which makes it a better environment because they feel like they're going to, oh man, we're going to come in today and we're doing things that the other schools aren't doing, especially in our leagues. And so it creates that atmosphere. And then it also creates a situation where, man, they compete every rep. And so, whereas before, without this ability to track barbell speed, you're going to have some athletes who sometimes come in tired or just don't feel it that day. And, they're just not going to put as much effort in between each rep as you're expecting them to. So, but when they're having instant feedback and they've got teammates that are watching them do it and seeing what they're doing, creating that is probably one of the biggest improvements of our program, I believe, in terms of just innovative ideas. And that helps them to, again, you get better results and you start adding that up. If you go through a 10-week off season and you went hard every rep for 10 weeks, these big lifts, and all of a sudden now you're that much better at the end of 10 weeks. And so I think that drives a lot of fun. And it's a lot of fun. You compete. You see guys and girls that are interested in what everybody else is doing. And so having that ability to do that is awesome. We have band systems that allow us to train differently and accommodate resistance. And so it's I feel like the biggest thing it does probably is all these things is it keeps it fresh. And then it also, I think that from an athlete's perspective, they realize, hey, they're getting some of the best training they can get, versus just your typical squatting year round and benching year round, but we can do variations that keep it interesting, keep it fresh. And so I think that's a big part of what we try to do here is that, with the coaches, my coaching staff, like I said, I had 4 graduate assistant positions. And so there's typically younger guys and girls who are very passionate. We're all passionate, but they're not married. They're young and they're straight out of college and they have aspirations and they have the big drive to get better and to learn new technologies and learn things. And so much to learn as a young coach. And so it keeps the environment here very fresh from my perspective, because I'm always around young people and who are always challenging ideas and challenging ways and trying to find ways to get better. And when we do that collectively as a staff, it's a great environment to be in. My full-time assistant, he's amazing. He's on top of stuff as well. So we have a young staff that's just always passionate. I think that's what helps keep the innovative ideas for me is, I know what works, and without technology, you can actually absolutely get people better. And I have no problem doing that. But I think with the technology involved, it just keeps things fresh. It keeps things fun. And being around young coaches that feel the same way, it's an awesome place. That's what kind of fuels me every day of coming up and knowing that, hey, like you said, I don't do the same thing I do every year. I look back at the last year's program and we model it off of that, and we try to, but we got different athletes, we got different culture. We have not necessarily different culture, but different type of athletes. We got guys coming in that have no idea how we did things the year before. So each year, we pretty much start over and build it off of last year's program. But again, we try to find ways to keep it fresh. And athletes will get better. If they work hard, they're going to get better as long as they're doing things right and doing things well and with great technique. And we're passionate as coaches to make sure they're doing stuff right. Then hey, as long as they're going to come up and the experience they have here is something that I think that they'll stick with them for the rest of their life, hopefully. And that's our goal. My goal is with our athletes. So innovation is awesome. I think it's great. And I think, you can't be hard-headed as a coach and think, man, we need to back squat all year long. There's nothing wrong with back squatting all year long. There might be for certain athletes, but if we can find a different way to get their legs strong and stronger and keep it fresh, then I'm going to do that, So, but I'm never going to go away from my beliefs and how we do things and what I feel like works. But man, there's all types of methodologies out there that you can use if you have the capabilities of doing that. So, and in my situation with such a large staff, it allows me to do a lot of different stuff. And each one of those have their own teams and they put all that passion in those programs they design. And so it's it's a great situation. But technology and innovative ideas, I mean, they flow through every day, and that's what's great about this.
Thanks, Coach. So, got two more curveballs I want to throw at you, and then kind of want to open the floor to you a little bit. But first things first, big one. I've been trying to tell you about the tactical side of things for many years, and you keep denying because you say you love West Florida too much. I get it. But in that understanding, if you were going to take that step, say tomorrow, with your outside view in, what would you do? What do you know, or are you confident with that you bring over to work with the soldier population that you would see be very beneficial for? Like, again, you haven't been there, so you don't understand, but you do understand because you're a strength coach. You see the needs, you know what they do realistically, somewhat perspective. What are some essential things you would definitely bring over for the soldier?
Well, to me, I met a guy named Mark Verstegen a long time ago, back in 1999, before we were Performance Nexus, and being around Rafael Ruiz at a young age, guys who taught me that, it's about movements and how, training movements is the most important part. And so I feel like, I've had the opportunity to run some fitness boot camps with an older population that, really what I learned is it's the same movement that we train with our athletes. And so, I think the human body moves the same, whether you're a strength coach or a football player or volleyball player or a tactical athlete, but the body moves the same way. So if we know as coaches how to get people to move better and understand limitations and we can improve their movement skills, then that's the most important part. So I think that, and with athletes, I mean, we're constantly dealing with, coming back from rehab, coming back from injuries, return to play protocols, different types of injuries that we have to work around. And we have to still continue to train the athletes as they come back. Or again, you may have somebody who can't ever load a barbell on their back. But I think the experiences I have with just the adaptations of training and how to adapt on the fly, how to get people to better when they can't do what you have everybody else doing. I think that's an important skill to have. What I would see, understand the demands, energy system wise, but really, I think that for me, it wouldn't be a drastic change of training methodologies. I think it would be real similar how we set things up with our athletes, and I think just got to be able to adapt and get them to buy into what you're doing. But to me, it's movement is movement, and we need to be able to get people to move better and understand why they can't move well. If they're not moving well, then how can we make it that way? So it's not always about just putting weights on people's backs. It's more so about how we can get people to move better and be more efficient. So I think my experiences with that would, what I would say would be one of the values that I could bring, or somebody like me would bring to the tactical side. And some great people to work with. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of what I would do and how I would train.
It's funny you say that. Like, that's the biggest shock in all too, because that's what I believe. It's about efficiency of movement, man. It is. It's at the end of the day, it's great to have a ball on your back. It's great that you can throw something. It's great that you can.
Well, I think our profession's changed so much. I mean, it's like, you go back, and I'm not old, but I started young in 1998. So it's 21 years now for me. And that's, just the perception I think people have of what strength training is. And I think, and maybe it's just me, and maybe I just don't see the whole picture, but I really feel like a lot of times people don't, even to this day, I mean, I don't know what percent of people across the country really truly understand what strength and conditioning coaches do. I mean, if you ask, probably the majority of people are going to say, oh, well, they're probably going to squat, they're going to go bench, they're going to power lift, might Olympic lift. But, it's such a more holistic training. It's like now you got to know a lot about physical therapy. You got to know a lot about overhead athletes. I mean, you got to know a lot about rotational training. There's so many things that speed work, speed development, acceleration training, top end speed, shin angles on change of direction, And so you got to get good at so many things. And then you got to be a good communicator. And then you got to understand budgets, and you got to understand how to hire people. And so there's so much involved with what we do. And I just think that, changing people's perspective of what we actually know and how we can get them better, and how much is not just about a barbell, but, I think just getting people to change their perspectives of what we do as a profession is important. I think, that's kind of where our profession is going. I'm getting off subject here a little bit, I think, but I think that's starting out early on. I mean, I think that's, I've seen a huge change of people like Mark Verstegen and Michael Boyle, and Eric Cressy, just to name a few of who I believe have people who've been great to see our profession grow and the respect that we've gained as a profession. I think it's been a big change in just the last 20 years. And I think now, with technology of athlete tracking and catapults and all these other things that we have to be able to be good at, there's just a lot of value in what we do. And I think people need to understand that.
No, I totally agree. And again, like I said, I remember not first day, but really the first part of when I started in the tactical sector, we got out there and we started working on lateral movement. And really it was just the same as the Exos modeling. I think they're beautiful on teaching movement, but it's really a march, skip, and then run component within their lateral progressions, or even a step in there. And soldiers are all falling over themselves, literally falling over, because in their PT test, if you're operator all the way down to a freaking military intelligence, you sit in front of a computer all day and fly a little airplane around or whatever you're doing. They don't know how to move laterally, because they only have to run 2 miles. It's changing a little bit, but they have to run 2 miles. They have to push-ups 2 minutes, sit-ups 2 minutes. So their capability of doing anything of really type of functional movement components, they suck at it. 2, their mobility is horrible. Well, philosophically in me is, if you're changing direction, you have to get into great angles. If you're throwing a medicine ball, you have to get into great in ranges of motion, or any type of rotary piece. You have to get great in range of motion. You're able to manipulate a lot of those mobility, stability issues just through those patternings. And I believe, learn how to do it. And then I would like to make it fun on top of it. And over time, I saw that progression. Some of them that played high school athletics, they'd be like, I remember I used to be able to do all this. I couldn't do it anymore, but I'm starting to do it again. And I feel better. Yeah. I hurt less. And it's like, because it's about movement. It's not just about strict patterns. You can't be married into a silo. You got to open up to your perspective. Like you said, at the end of the day, like, lifting weights is rudimentary in so many ways. Like, yes, you want to put stress on the body, but, in that, and yes, you want to have a periodized approach to it, yes. But in that understanding, outside of that, there's not a lot of end-all, be-all to making a better athlete. The better athlete comes from more efficient patterns and being technically sound. Like, that's it.
Yeah, and I think that, we talk about this as a staff, and I really believe that probably less is more, almost, in the fact that, how can we put the least amount of stress on people's bodies and make them better? For us, getting ready for competition, it's like we want to make sure we have fresh athletes that they're peaking out right in the correct times. And so, again, athletes came here to become better at their sport, and I would imagine that tactical people just want to feel better and move better. At the end of the day, that's what they want. So how can we do that? And with the least amount of stress as possible, to make them better and to feel better. So again, that just comes, I think, to having different methodologies you can use and different backgrounds. But
I agree. So last question I want to ask you, Coach. This deals with right now, our current situation. And I think this is important. I asked this. I didn't have it on the sheet, so I'm going to throw you a curveball there. I told you I was throwing you one.
That's all right.
I think that everybody's asking this question and trying to figure this out. So what are your thoughts on returning to train as this COVID-19 begins to dissipate? Like, how do you see I don't know if you have a plan yet. What is it? Is there a rollout component to it? Is there a phase piece to it? Kind of how do you see this with your staff and athletes and coaching staff?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was talking to another coach about that yesterday, and then just he brought the fact that, hey, what if the social distancing is still in play, and when our athletes come back, we're going to have to work out 6 feet apart, And I was like, that really never crossed my mind. I hope not. That'd be pretty difficult. But yeah, I really don't know. It's gonna, I think nobody really knows at this point in time. At this point in time, what I'm doing is, and what my staff has done is, our athletes have workouts that we sent to them, and just to give them an idea of what they could be doing. We want our athletes, when they come back, to be in a situation where they're going to be ready to go. But at the same time, when they come back, we have guidelines as a strength and conditioning professional. We got to have to make sure we follow with work to rest ratios and running volumes and things that we got to make sure that we're staying on track with. So just for the health of the student athletes, because at the end of the day, that's the most important part, is making sure they stay safe and healthy. So what that looks like, I don't know. We have right now we're planning for maybe two or three different scenarios. Maybe one coming back in July, and I don't throw dates out there because we don't know, but we got to have some idea. So, what if we have 5 weeks to prepare our athletes or our fall sport athletes for practice? What are we going to do with the 5 weeks? We know that 3 of those weeks going to have to be an adaptation period. So, that's kind of what we're doing, is just taking a look at different scenarios. And, we come back in August, what if they don't come back till school starts, so until that point comes, we just try to encourage our athletes to be active and to try to follow what we give them if they can. If not, then, be creative. And, but I think it's unprecedented territory, and everybody's in the same situation for the most part. So, hopefully the motivation of the athletes to continue to train and be ready to go when they come back is going to be enough to keep them going while we're there or until we get back. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, like I said. So, but there's no way of knowing. All we do is plan the best that we can, make sure we have different plans on whatever scenario it may be. But I feel like, I feel confident that we'll be able to get our athletes back to ready to go, and I know they'll be motivated to do so. So, but that's where we're at right now.
Thanks, Coach. Last thing I want to ask, or not ask, give to you. On this talk today, I always like to give the person that's talking or we're interviewing or having them on, however you want to say it, give you the opportunity to answer any questions you felt like were not answered, that you feel are essential to the audience. I think that it's important that you have that. You obviously you have certain passions with you as a coach, or certain things that you felt that really helped you as a coach. Is there anything kind of want to leave this time for you to kind of share that?
Well, like I said earlier in the program, I've been around some great coaches, learned from some of the best, not only from X's and O's perspective, but also from how to deal with athletes, just great people. And so one of the biggest things that I've learned is, and that's probably the biggest things I try to get across to my staff is that, is to stay humble, and to, through staying humble, you'll want to improve every day. You'll want to get better. You'll understand that you don't know it all. No matter how long you do this, you're always learning stuff. So, and get around great people. That's the important part, but staying humble and do what we can to promote this profession, I think is very important. So, from my perspective, I've had, different phases of my career. I kind of go back and I look, and, for me, like phase 0 is being a college athlete and loving to work out and train and just trying to get as fast and strong as possible. The phase B was being a graduate assistant to being a young full-time coach and just soaking in as much information as I can, and still continue to train hard, run with the athletes, stay in shape. The next phase for me was a little longer, further ahead, was, still trying to get better and always trying to get better, but trying to still train hard. And, then for me, I have a unique perspective on life because I had a virus attack my heart. And so I went from being able to do all these things to now I can't train heavy. I can't train hard anymore. So had opportunity, but it gave me a perspective of, okay, what's important and what's important as a coach and what's important as a husband and man. And I think that, that's where, through that time that I understood that I need to get better. So it gave me a chance to kind of sit back and reflect and then look back and get better in areas that I need to improve on. So, and find a niche. I think that when you're a young coach getting started as professionals, you got to become a really good general strength coach. A lot of different things, because there's so many things that we need to know as strength coaches, from speed training to developing speed and power in the weight room. And so, but then, you come to a certain point in your career where, you may become a head coach, or you may be close to it, or, but you got to find a niche. For me, I think, I went to Eric Cressy's baseball performance training, both of his things on that. Spent a lot of time, got TPI certified, Tyler's Performance Institute, which I learned a lot about the golf swing and a lot about how movement affects that. So, but all those things translate into other sports and how you can train other sports better. So, reaching out and trying to get better and find a niche in areas as you get older, and I think it's important. And then, and then giving back to our professions. To me, that's the most important thing. I think that young coaches need to know where we came from, where Ben Pollard was, and coaches who began in the 1990s and 1980s who didn't make much money at all. They didn't make any money. They did it because they loved it. And then they paved the way for us now, and to all the positions that we have. So all the collegiate strength coaches now, they're big staffs, they're making a lot of money, which is awesome. Now there's tactical side, like you said. I mean, there's high school strength coaches, but our profession has grown a lot. But it's grown a lot because people paved the way for it. And, those are the people that we need to make sure we stay humble and stay put a perspective on and know and appreciate, what it was like 20 years ago in our profession. So I think that just, that's important as young coaches move forward. Our profession is to look back and appreciate how you have the opportunities that you have. So, that's my perspective on it.
Yeah, Coach, I can't tell you enough how thankful I am to be able to sit down and chat with you today. Like, you don't understand how much of influence you had on me as a coach, just mainly from a character standpoint. And that's why I value you as a good coach. And I think that people overlook that sometimes. They forget about that, the importance of it. So, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that I can call you a colleague and a friend, and I can share ideas without judgment, be honesty, honesty in there. I think that allows me to be obviously innovative with my approach and where I am in my career. So thanks again, Coach. Otherwise, best of luck. Okay.
Thanks, Lynn.
You got it.